you're a musician and an actor and a paranormal soul brother. You a ufologist? Would that be another?
Yeah,
Definitely. So
that would be yeah.
I want to welcome you to the waiting room with the Demon Warrior and El Guapo. Thank you for being on here tonight, and we're excited about the show. I just watched an episode of WKRP in Cincinnati, and I watched an episode of Paranormal Soul Brother.
Oh man, you're too kind. You're too kind. Thank you for taking time.
Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Excited about this. So, Paul has done house cleansings with you, and apparently a bunch of other things. I think you were even on. What did we do that episode with a sanitarium where you were outside on was it Ghost Hunt, Paul?
Oh yeah, it was UFO ghost hunt.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
You were
ghost
there
hunt,
too.
flash UFO. Yeah, that was cool. That was
Awesome.
good.
And what's so fantastic about Xandine, he goes above and beyond with the investigations. Like I had one in San Luis Obispo, and I didn't feel like getting in my car and driving all the way over there. But then I looked, and guess what? Xandine drove all the way over there. And I'm not going to get into too many details about that case. But anyway, a lot of the demon cases that I get is a lot of psychological BS. And unfortunately, that's what Xandine got to face over there. So, but I thank him for checking it out and doing the best he can to help that lady. But
no, you always trying to help. So I mean, she seemed like she needed help, and we wanted to take a stab. So
oh yeah, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this. I'm sorry, Paul. That is interesting because
Sure.
I imagine when you're doing this, I don't know what the statistics are, whether it's 20% of the time, 50% of the time. I imagine that's just part of the territory. Sometimes you're going to run into something that's legit, and sometimes you're going to run into somebody who might have a mental illness, somebody who might be trying to put you on. Elaborate a little bit on either this one or maybe some other experience you had that wasn't the real thing, and you quickly realized it as soon as you got in there.
Okay. Yeah, no. Thanks for asking me. Making me actually relate that. Well, this particular case, the lady, she, from her description, she had a succubus. So it was mature in nature, some of the things that were happening to her that she was talking about. And she was like in pain, and she felt that every night, like 3:30, that this entity would come. It would try to do things with her. And when she was on the phone talking, she said, "Hey, I'm in pain. I need somebody to come help me now." And I said, "Well, pain." And what she said was that, like, she gets these headaches and she starts burping. And she was burping a lot. I mean, just like, I don't know, and I didn't question like why she was, but she had these symptoms, and she said, "Do you think you guys could do anything?" So I was going to go down there. And so I said, okay. But when I got down there, the first question I asked her, this is what was a giveaway to me. I mean, I don't know for other people, but since you asked me that, the first thing I asked her, I said, so you said that you're a psychic. She told me she was a psychic. And I said, well, what's your source of power? And she said, well, man, I don't know, my family, my mother. And I was looking for like Samyaza or Shamden, somebody who actually had the solution to sorcery, that's known through history from the enemies and their supporters. But she didn't know that at all either. And I said, well, I was thinking to myself, the only way she can really step away from a succubus that I've seen, you have to step in a whole another line of faith and really step in. You can't I just want to get away from the succubus for a hot second and then go back to what I was doing. You have to really step away for it to get unrooted from my experience. So I knew that she didn't really want to exercise that because she said, well, I'm a psychic. She was holding on to that. And I was like, well, how important is that to you? Because that's part of your root to it. So, and other than that, she wanted to also try other shaman and healers, but in the end, she ended up calling back and she realized, hey, you know what you were telling me, I do have to, she realized that she could call as many people as she wanted, but it really was on her stepping out of what she was doing. So
This is when you mentioned those names, that I can't
Samyaza,
exactly. For some viewers who might not know who they are,
yeah,
could you give
yeah,
us a little
yeah.
background?
Samyaza is the leader of the Watchers. A lot of people talk about Anunnaki or fallen angels or Watchers. Samyaza is the fallen angel who named all the Watchers. And there's like 200 of them. You can find all the names, but he named them, including Azazel, which is Satan Hasatan. Most people know him as Lucifer, but that name came much later. So Samyaza is the one entity, the lead angel that say was here, let there before be light. He was predisposed with a lot of power, and he and the second angel under him called Yakan, they first started saying, hey, you can go down and start our own race with these human women. We can go down there, we can teach them, we can show them, but they didn't have the authority to go ahead and show them these forbidden arts and procreate with them. So that was a problem. But Samyaza was the leader of all the Watchers. So when you see people doing sorcery, signing, grinding, roots and herbs, he was the person, as far as I would say the Abrahamic pantheon, people that believe in, say, God.
Bible.
And even if you don't, Samyaza has transcended into the Babylonian uh, uh, folklore, into various ones. For instance, he's Uzzah in Babylon, but when he fell, he became their god. They didn't have a problem with the arts that he was showing them. So to not confuse the viewers, I'm to not to get too much into it. Sorry, but Samyaza is a powerful being, the leader of the Watchers.
And he was a fallen angel. You said, right?
Yes, he was a fallen angel. Once he started procreating, when he came down to earth, and he had two sons, Ohijah and Ahijah. But the famous giant that was his son, because when they said the origin of giants was between these celestials or these angels and human women.
Yes.
So he actually, for what I can trace, he had two sons, and his famous grandson Og and Sion, he taught them some of that stuff that he was forbidden to teach humans. So if you look at some of the castles, the things they built, they were supposed to be real giants, and they were acknowledged in other lore, like the Talmud acknowledges them. Genesis talks about Og at the Battle of Bashan. He was the last giant, pretty much defeated at Bashan after the flood. So
There's
And I'm sorry.
no, you go ahead, Paul.
no.
Is a lot of the giants that are found right here in the United States, the Smithsonian usually steps in, and it becomes top
Yeah.
secret. Yeah.
That's right.
What is
Right,
what
right.
is? I'm sorry, Xandine.
No.
What is Xandine? There's when you said that about the angels, and then the human women, and then there were giants. It just reminded me. Is that a biblical verse? I've heard that somewhere before. That there.
Now that is in Genesis. That is in Enoch. That is in Yasher. There's in the Apocrypha and the regular books. The 66 books that they have, and most people read the King James version if they read that Bible. But it's in Genesis, and it's in the book of Enoch.
I've heard. What is? Do you remember the quote though? The I'm thinking of is
I should get my secret.
what something something about the angels coming into women and then procuring the giants, or if there were giants in those days.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. I was trying to stay away from. I was so busy trying to stay away from that mature connotation. But the exact words, it's I don't know off the top of my head.
I'm sorry. I it's like it's right there. It's right there, and I know I've heard
Nephilim?
this
Yeah,
before.
you know
The
what?
Nephilim,
I
yeah,
do
the
have my
Nephilim,
paper.
yeah. But there's an actual verse that has been quoted
Oh,
many times about the something about not the sons of
Yeah, the
men, but the
sons of
children,
the daughters of men were
daughters of men.
yeah, the daughters of men were the fallen angels made it with the daughters of men and made the Nephilim. But there are three races too. There was the Nephilim, um, which I don't know if you knew, they were like the 450 feet variety, and then you had the Goliath variety with the second type, and then you had some that were smaller.
Okay.
So, but before we're done, I'll find that on my in my Bible.
So Goliath was Nephilim, I guess, or
Yes, he was. He was the second. He was the second variety. Like he actually had brothers that were like 12 and 11 feet, and he had the extra digits and the double rows of teeth. So he was that real type of giant. Although historians try to say that the Ammonites, which he was an Ammonite, and with the Philistines, that they said that genealogy, the Ammonites, the Philistines, the Rephaim, the Nephilim, anything they had with the Em, they said that maybe they had a genetic defect. This is how scientists look at it, but
try to explain it.
right. But when you have whole, tribes and populations that are all like that, and you look at the graveyards and other bones, but like what Paul was saying about the Smithsonian Institute, I did read something like a long time ago about them having statues with dinosaurs and men walking alongside them, and some men on top of them, and that they were getting rid of these. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I would find it not too hard to believe, because from what I was reading in Enoch, in chapter 12, they talked about them being like 350 cubits, the first race. So then when you talk about Og was like, his bed was 13 cubits. So they still have his bed. So he was that variety. So, the bones that have been found, who knows,
I've heard of stories of, and I'm sure Paul has too, about giant skeletons that have disappeared from the Smithsonian's collection over the years.
Which ones piqued your interest? Like which ones?
Well, there was the Wild West. There, not the Wild West, but when we basically started stealing this country from the Native Americans and going across and digging up graves, there were several instances of giant graves of giants that were uncovered by farmers normally.
Yeah.
And a few of them actually were sent back. Most of them ended up in sideshows that disappeared. But then
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
one
Wow.
or
I
two,
believe that.
yeah, one or two made its way to to the Smithsonian and then disappeared.
Yeah.
But that's not the only one. There's what is the big museum in London? There's a like a medical museum.
Oh, the British Museum where the Rosetta Stone is. I actually went to the British Museum and I saw the
You go
Rosetta
everywhere. Paul's been everywhere.
Yes.
Hey, but let's not forget Paluxy River in the 1930s. That's where they found human footprints right next to dinosaur footprints.
They still exist.
Oh, okay.
In Texas,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, they still exist. Those footprints are still there.
Yeah.
That's one of the few things that hasn't disappeared. And I believe it's protected. It's part of a state park or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like what up in Las Vegas. They got all those mountains they used to have, and I mean, and they said all the skeletons they found up there. But I mean, I've seen pictures. I haven't actually been to museums, but I really do believe, like, I think I think there's been enough documentation on them that it has to be at least a few. Do you remember the missionary who would go down to the Solomon Islands and he spoke of giants down there? It's like Marias Basilius. He talked about the giants they had down there, and that they were modern day giants.
Yeah, and the giants were almost all over the whole world. Yeah, there were in Malta.
Malta still has some of the buildings. Yeah. Some of the stones from some of the castles. That was what was some of the telltale. When you have some of those buildings, like Stonehenge, and as they say, well, maybe a giant or somebody did it, but You can look at some of the buildings in Malta and historically know that Sihan and some of them had something to do with the building of those. So historically, yeah, historically, so that's what I've been thinking about. Samyaza. When we're talking about Samyaza, they said Og was his grandson. Now, if Og is a real historical figure from the Battle of Bashan, and you can find his bed and this and that, I'm like, how could who's his father? What's his origin? So,
Speaking
Hey,
of that,
Xandine.
oh, sorry, not Paul.
Oh, sorry. Xandine, you got a very interesting background. And the people watching this, you've been on a TV show called WKRP Cincinnati. And you're a ufologist. You travel all over the place. You go down to Los Angeles. You go to Joshua Tree National Park, all kinds of places to hunt these UFOs. Before we get into the UFOs,
yes, sir.
did you get into that TV show, WKRP Cincinnati?
Yes, that you have to be kind of older because my kids they don't even know what that show is. They're like, what is that? Like they don't even think it existed. But it was an old radio show from the '90s that I used to go back and forth in LA doing rapping, singing, dancing, and they would have auditions. And ironically, I ended up meeting in San Francisco. I met Michael T. Williamson, who played Bubba Gump he played Bubba Shrimp in Forrest Gump. So,
Oh,
but this was before like he even had that role or anything like that. He actually was like an activist. He really tried to reach back and see if people had talent he could help or whatever he could do. And so they asked me did I want to meet him, and at that time I had already kind of been in and had signed bad contracts, so I really wasn't really interested. And I said no, I didn't want to meet him. And they were like, "Well, come on, man. This guy is on Hill Street Blues. He does, this, he does that." And it was about a week. And his last day, he says, "Hey, man, come on down. Just say what's up, and let me see what you're working on." So I said, "Okay." So I went down there, and he at that time they like speed rapping, like really fast rapping. So he was into that, and so we chopped it up back and forth. And he said, "You don't have a manager?" And I said, "No, not at the time." He said, "Well, listen, he seems serious. I got a red eye flight for you to come down to Los Angeles. You just go pick it up. It's on you." So I really didn't know who he was. I really didn't know who he was so much. So I asked my mother, and she was like, "Well, baby, just go down there. What the heck do you have to lose?" So I went down there, and it turned out he was working on, although he actually was working on WKRP at the time too. He was doing a couple of shows, but he was on that lot. So he would take me down there to freestyle, improv about people. We'd go to different contests, talent shows. He had to do all this stuff because there's people trying to get trying to sign you or get agents. I didn't know anything, but you just every 5 minutes you're like, here, rap for this person, sing for this person, dance. It's like so. Finally, somebody from Max Tash, the guys that wrote Jefferson's Good Times, Max Tash and Bill Dow, they were like, "Hey, Romeo, man, how do you feel about acting?" That was my stage name at the time. Romeo Blue. Yeah, Romeo Blue. And so they're like, "Romeo, how do you feel, about acting?" I was like, "Well, hey, I've never done any acting." So they said, "Okay." So later that night, Michael T said to me, he threw this book at me and he says, "Hey, say these lines right here." And it was something like if I said, "Hey, hello, Paul," right? Imagine if the line said, "Hello, Paul," and I looked at him, I said, "Hey, Paul, hey, man." And he looked at me, he said, "Man, you know what? If you said it like that, you would bomb." He said, "You can either listen to me and the 300 some $1,000 I paid for acting coaching today, or you can do it your way." I said, "Oh, no, 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 by all means. I don't know anything about, acting, tell me." So he gave me a crash course at that point upstage. So he worked with me for a while on subtext. The main thing is like being yourself when you actually say the lines, like who you are versus playing it by the numbers. So that took a minute, but once I got it down, then they had a script ready, and they had me. The problem was the script that they had for me. It had me stealing something.
Computer, right?
Yeah,
Computer.
it had me stealing something. And the first thing I thought was like, man, I said, why did they have me stealing something? Just just dumb. Just not even thinking the whole thing through. It was like, but I ought to tell you something funny. I said, so why did they have me stealing the computer? Did I say something? And they go, no, man. They said that character has a redeemable action. It's a redeemable character if you play it right. And so they said that basically they're saying, hey, that's a hard role. They think you can do it. But Les Nessman, from,
Yeah.
like that's one of the most recognized to me. That's who I kind of really knew. And he told me, he said, hey, Romeo, he says, no, it play it like this. You meant to do what you did to help your friends. You didn't mean to hurt anybody. You probably do it again, but you didn't mean to mess up. So he tried to explain the way to play a redeemable. But anyway, so that was my first crash course to realize that like those actors are really talented because you get 2 scripts a week because you have an episode that you're working on that week and you get one that's already coming for the next week.
Wow.
And your memorization, like they have these thing called dumbass cards. Pardon mon français, excuse me, dumb
Say
card.
whatever you want on the show. It's not
Yeah.
filtered.
Okay. All right. I know some people, but yeah, they got dumbass cards, and you don't want those because they hold those up, real big. Some people don't care, but when you're getting down there, you just don't want to use them. But the more experienced actors, they don't even read the script. They just sit around and let you read it, and they become that person by Friday. Because what you do is on Friday, you shoot in the morning in front of cameras, no people. It's live, and it's you're supposed to have it down packed, and then you do it in front of a live audience that night, and they mix and match, and it's more loose. So they pick the best of those, and for that episode, so then you're going into the next week for the next episode. But yeah, that's how that TV stuff works. But I always wanted to get inside the little box and see what it was like, and once I did that, that was it. The mystery was over.
Wow, that's
Uh,
great. That's great.
You had a lot of time with Les Nessman in that episode.
Oh man, we spent a lot of time in the trailers. He has a lot of when you're not a star, they just throw on like a little trailer,
Yeah.
and they put your name on it, and it's cool though. It still show you a lot of love. But like when you're a star like Les, you got like an apartment like. Or if you're like Jerry Seinfeld, because they were on there, you got like apartment, and I don't know what those guys, they get paid so well, and you get catering, your clothes, wardrobe. I mean, they have everything pretty laid out. But Les had a lot of game. And when I say he had a lot of game, I mean like he told me, he goes, hey Romeo. He goes, you rapping stuff. He says, hey man, that's good. He says, you ever try to put out your album, or you think about putting out an album? I says, yeah. I said, well, but if you put out the wrong thing, you can't get it out. If you water it down, maybe it's hard. He says, why look, why don't you just write it in a book? And then we start talking about like different artists from Europe that had tried that. Like he was really hip. He loved coming to the Bay Area with he had a daughter, Emily, and another one, Caitlin, that would come by. He loves coming up to Napa in the Bay Area. He loved it up here. And he was the smartest actor. Although he was funny, when the cameras are off, this is like one time we were doing a scene and the mic hit him in the head and everybody kind of laughed because he just stood there and they got all the laughs and he didn't laugh at all. And when they finished laughing, he said, can we get on with the scene? And everybody, they turned it on. Like, so that, that's less. But he was fun, man. Who else? Actually, some of the older actors will come by just to check on it. Some of the ones that have been on before. So it's a revolving door. And like, if you go to the cafeteria, that's what's a trip. If you're like an unknown person like me, you've never been down there, you don't know anybody, and you go into the cafeteria, you see like who's who. You want to ask for an autograph, but they're working. It just their hair is down, so you don't even bother. And you never know who you might see. Like I walked around the corner and I saw some shoes, I saw some shoes that were so bad. I love shoes, and I said, man, these are some of the baddest shoes I've ever seen, right? And I said, they were George Hamilton's. But the funny,
Wow.
but the funny thing about that is he used to hang with Emil DeMarcos. But I didn't have the heart to ask him, hey man, did you get those when you went shopping with that
Right.
lady Emil DeMarcos?
First,
Anyway,
first lady of the Philippines, and
yeah,
the
man.
guy with the greatest tan in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, yeah, man. So he was tanning that day.
I don't think I've ever seen him without a tan.
Man, he tried to do an in between. See, that's the only thing. Yeah, I didn't know what's going on, but we did discuss like I like that movie Love at First Bite.
That was great.
And,
Great movie.
yeah, I liked him in that movie, man. Okay,
Hell
okay,
yeah.
all
What
right.
about Zorro the Gay Blade? You never seen that? Was awesome.
I forgot about that one. Yeah,
Boys of Summer. Yeah, I guess I'm showing my age. I've seen a bunch of George
nice.
Hamilton movies.
No, man, that's beautiful because half of the time people don't know what I'm saying.
Xandine, how did you become Paranormal Soul Brother? What made you interested in the paranormal and UFOs and the whole works?
Well, that was like a long. My dad was a Vietnam vet. Well, he is a Vietnam vet, I should say, not was, but he had a near death experience, like before I even heard it on In Search of, or anything, and it always tripped me out. Like he would tell me recant it, and he was interested in UFOs himself. He always said, "Hey, there's other life." He wasn't saying is there or isn't there. He was saying it was. And so when Close Encounters came out, we were already on that. Like we were already thinking, hey, this is what's going on. So that right there, that movie, and like stuff he was into, and he had a couple of friends that had cabins up at Clear Lake, and they spoke of some things, and I just was like, really, just really want to see is that like for real. And so when the internet first came out, the first things you could search pretty much was like UFO stuff, and you could search X-rated stuff. It's about the thing you could get
Chat
some of the
rooms.
crazy stuff. Yeah, chat rooms, right? Remember those chat rooms?
Yeah.
I could, yeah. So it's like, but they had a lot of, and I would spend all kind of time searching the areas that they had. They talked about bases and this and that, and I was hooked. So I didn't
Wow.
see anything though until my son. I have my 24-year-old. When he was 4, I saw like a green kind of like jelly glob type of UFO, the color green of a traffic light, and that was by Antioch on Highway 4, and it was in the daytime, more like going towards the evening, but everybody could see it because everybody on the freeway slowed to about 40, trying to look at this thing, and it was a major highway, and as soon as it disappeared behind the mountain, and it was going in the live air like whoop whoop, and everybody was you're just like stuck, like you got a jackpot or something. You're not gonna close your mouth or anything. You just, and then when it disappeared, everybody sped up to like 90. I said, yeah, okay. So I looked around for people that were doing it for real, and I found Paul, and we before even did we just were talking, and I realized that hey, here's a guy that's like really prolific at this. Like he's forgot more about this stuff than I know. So he's like, yeah, come on, some investigations. And so one thing I was impressed by was that you would have all these like armchair investigators and ufologists, people that would come and they want to run the show how they want to run it. Like they have these ideas. And Paul would always say to me, hey man, listen, if that's what they want to do, they can just get their own group, and like he used to crack me up because like he was always like nothing but, and he knew exactly he had when we would come in, there was a formula. Like I like when people do something so much that you have to sit back and learn and you'll get like the good details. He doesn't have to say, hey, now you do this, you do that. Now he's coming in. If you watch, you could see. And so with the cleansings, and then studying. If you study yourself and you're interested, and that's what you do, you get whatever certifications or whatever studying you want to do. But Paul is prolific. He's always writing. I mean, he would write the book almost before we even got out of the place. By the time that night came, he would have the stuff edited, on his way to finish. That book will be finished in a week. And definitely magazine articles are nothing. Like, they used to blow my mind. And at the same time, it wasn't discouraging, but like I would do episodes. He's like, "Come on, Xandine, man, you gotta put him out, man." And when somebody like that tells you that, you can't be like, "Well, what are you doing?" Not because he's doing. You know,
He's walking the walk.
yeah, yeah. And so that was it was a lot of valuable things, and then so many other things that I'm sure you probably learned, and then, so we've been doing it for it's been years now, and I've learned so much. And
And
during that whole time, I never stopped, with but I try to have fun with it because I know these people are getting serious. They're getting signed up with the cons. One minute you're serious, next minute you got a guitar and you got like 5 blondes at the con and everything. No offense against it or anything. I'm just saying I don't know which way I would go with that.
When you were first started the podcast, and I was asking you about the people that you weren't quite sure whether it was legit or not. The one woman in particular that you started talking about, and we somehow ended up here. But going back to that, when you actually have to handle a situation like that, you mentioned like get going into I guess a religion, or using in order to do a cleansing or get rid of a spirit like a
Yeah,
succubus, you have to be all in. Um,
yeah.
can you that's is that the Judeo-Christian route? Is that through Jesus? That is God? Like, how
Uh,
can you explain it? Just a little bit anyway.
okay,
How's that done?
okay. Well, for me, I am a Christian, but I do respect all, denominations. I was raised, I grew up in San Francisco. I mean, we had Krishnas, Buddhists. My friends Chang, Jehovah's Witness right across. I mean, I respect everybody. But from what I believe, what I was telling her, and she was a Christian, so that's why I was dealing with her on that basis. But I told her, if you want to get rid of that succubus, which is within the pantheon, the Abrahamic pantheon that we're part of, um, you're gonna have to step into into your God's light. You're gonna have to step into that more. Your faith. And there's a verse in Romans where Jesus said, I never knew you. Like it was a gentleman saying, yeah, I did everything you asked. I volunteered. I did. What he meant is like follow the ways, law. Like if you're not, you can volunteer. I mean, for sure. But if you're not really being kind, like if you have $5 and you gave somebody two, don't worry about it. If I had a coat, you know, and I gave it to, I gave my coat to a person, all I had was a tank top, but he didn't have any clothes at all. You know, they were, from that perspective, as far as a Christian, um, I was talking to her,
Walking the
hey,
walk.
walking the walk. So if you get into your faith for real, and that succubus can't take a foothold. You can't the entity like that, when you're filled with real God, with your real light, then that's when you can shake it. But if you're in between, because a lot of people, well, I know I do have an episode of Paranormal Soul Brother, season 2, episode 2. The lady that I was dealing with, she had a succubus, she was much in the same. Hers was actually real. She really had some real things going on, but because of that same nature going back and forth, um, she was never able to shake it. But so I do mean stepping forward, but I do believe that you can step into whatever faith, because don't get me wrong, if you look at the pantheon of say like the Jinn, if you look at um
Genies, yeah.
yeah, I mean, let's take the movie Exorcist, for example. The demon that they had in the Exorcist, that actually was a Mesopotamian demon. The thing of it is you use that demon in Mesopotamia to affect the pregnancy, good or bad, whereas in Catholicism, you don't have a demon with a history and a incantation or ritual to summon it like you would like a jinn, but um you still can have a use for that, if that's what you are. So if she want to get rid of that succubus, I do believe if she in her heart believed and what she believed, that maybe she could come with the counter. I mean, I'm not, because I don't want to rule other people's religion out just because, I had a certain syntax or certain words in a book that I know is wrong too. And I'll give you an example. Even though I like the Bible, I read the Sefer, which is a Hebrew Bible. It's even older text. It's translated. It's got the apocryphy in it, but it's still got a few footnotes. It's been rewritten. And when I was reading it, I realized that Moses was fighting the king of Persia, who was King Artashata, King Xerxes, from the King Xerxes and
Xerxes,
Darius.
yeah.
Well, Xerxes is what you saw in 300. That
Yeah,
crazy
Persia,
called.
right?
Yeah, yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't like that. But anyway, the king of Persia at that time, they had already had a savior, Mithras, who was born December 25th. Had disciples, was resurrected, and they had Ahura Mazda and Ahura Ben Azat, what was their trinity. So they were fighting Moses, who hadn't they had yet to have that in the New Testament. So I thought that was pretty ironic. And it's ironic that they were the tribe that said, hey, you know what? In our lands, the Israelites, you guys can go ahead and build the first and second temple because you know what? You're more like us. We believe in one God. We don't sacrifice our kids and do all this weird other, deviant stuff. So you're more like us, come over here. So it was one of those type of things because the brothers in Babylon, they was doing some Marduk stuff. And so, but if you tell somebody, my God is better than your God, those are fighting words.
But you brought up a great point about the Mithra and it's Ahura Mazda, even Krishna. These are
Yes.
these are all examples of deities, saviors, who basically look a whole lot like Jesus when it comes to the birthdays, born of a virgin, crucified and died, resurrected on the third day. There's a whole lot of similarities between them. It seems like the universal Messiah, if you want to call it that type of thing.
That's a good point.
But on the other thing that you mentioned too, I want to touch upon is that the Catholics, and I guess I'm pulling a lot from The Exorcist, was one of my favorite movies as a kid. But it seems even in the movie, she took her child to medical doctors, to psychiatrists, to all sorts of people. And what did they end up telling her in the end? Go see a Catholic priest. They're the only people we know of that have experience with this kind of thing. And so is that true? I was born and raised Catholic, so I don't know. Is there a history of exorcism in other religions, or is that?
Oh, definitely. Oh no, no, most definitely. Matter of fact, there's so much demonology, right? Matter of fact, there's what they call the not Elohim, but Elohim technique, tachiology. Like they'll talk about pantheons from Mesopotamia, from Greece, from Iran, Iraq. Like they all had their demons. Although 2,400 entities with the on the demon side, say Sumerian, like or Indian, you could have 2,400 different type of demons with history and everything. But there are ways to counter them, ways to summon them, who they came from, and how to counter them. Yeah, so maybe you don't call it an exorcism, but you call it a because in the exorcism, like I said, the demon that actually that they were using. No,
I know that she called him Captain Howdy, and then I thought he found the figurine of Baal when the priest did when he was in the Middle East.
Well, you know what? It's funny you said that about Baal. Well, because it's the tip of my tongue, but the demon that they were exorcising, they called upon the name of a demon that in Mesopotamia and Babylon was used to, if you're having a baby, somebody can say, hey, I don't like that person and affect the baby. Or they can say, hey, I really want that baby to come through. Somebody put a curse on me. Can you overpower that demon? So they do stuff like that. We don't do that in Christianity or the Catholic Church. We don't use, but that demon, ironically, was when they were doing. But now when you say Baal or Baal, the thing about Baal, when you think of Baal,
Pazuzu.
Right.
Pazuzu was.
Pazuzu. That's right. Thank you. Pazuzu is a Mesopotamian demon. Okay, Pazuzu is not like a normal what we would do. But when I said Baal or Baal, people said different. But the thing about that was local chapters. That could be like Paul, of Elk Grove, so and so of San Francisco. Baal of there were chapters where you would have your religion, you're Israelite or you're a Christian, you would go by these places, not Christian, but if you were in those, you go by these places, and I'm talking about Old Testament, you would go by these places where there'll be women that would lure you into their fertility cult with sex. So a lot of times that was really a really big problem, which people need to understand is because Samyaza and all those fallen angels, they fell behind sex, drugs, and maybe not rock and roll, but they definitely had music. Okay. They had when I say drugs, because Samyaza and them not only uh so the sex was making this being, God, Yahweh, whoever you want to call him, was making this being mad because he had already dealt with these people in eternity in heaven doing the stuff. If you look at Enoch going through the heavens, you see there was prisons of crystal. Like the angel Gabriel said to, what's wrong? He's like, man, this is beautiful, but it's terrifying. You know what you mean? He says, yeah, those are prisons. There's been people that transgressed up there, but so when they got down here, they had this palace thing. That the fallen angels, the angels, I'm just whatever, the angels on earth would go to this palace. It's like a sex palace. And they would do everything you could think of, every position, every toy, anything you could think of. And when the women would come there, they tell them, hey, listen, no clothes. We want you to wear glitter. Okay. And we got this thing called rouge. So when you come back in here, no clothes, we want you to have this glitter and this rouge. So they'd have sex. And the way further research would describe is, yeah, they didn't have a body like us per se. They could manifest, but they had something. They'd have the ladies and they tell them how to sit on their lap, and it would swim up their thigh, up their thigh. This is how their thing worked. It was much like a snake. So they would tell them to do this, and they said, hey, listen, we want you to go in the wild, gather herbs, gather roots. So when they say gather herbs, and they say gather roots, grind and cocaine, go ahead, gather mushrooms, hallucinogens. So when they came back, they said, now, when we did it the first time, it was good, but now it's thrice as good. I mean, they were cutting, I mean, they were doing their thing. So also they could talk to animals as well. The secrets that they learned in heaven, that Enoch learned, the same things they learned, maybe not all of them. Some of it probated mysteries from the way they researched this, but they were, when you're doing it like that, also they could talk to the animals. So they ordered 200 of different animals to where they want to do progenesis. They want to start races, different creatures with them as well. Not just the human women. Just people aren't privy. Some people haven't really read about that. Now, is it real? It's in the Book of Giants. Some of the Nagamati. So there was a lot going on with what we're doing today behind the sex and the Baal cult. So you're telling me about Baal. So Baal not just being one God, but being like entities. Because it'd be like Baal of San Jose, Baal of San Jose, Baal of Sacramento. And each was doing things a little different, but doing the sacrifices and doing the fertility sex sex thing.
So it's almost like a title more than an individual.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Caesar.
yeah. More like that. And speaking of Caesar, when you said Caesar, how come people believe stuff about Caesar, but and the way it was written down and remembered, but there's other stuff right around that they say, hey, well, we don't know about this or that. That's kind of ironic. But what were you about to say, Paul? I think I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Some of the information that you're putting out there. Yeah, it's just it's mind blowing. And all these different religions do have a way to expel these demons. So they all have different ways and stuff like that. And with the investigations that you've been on with me, we do respect any type of religion. And at one time, HPI, we had people that were able to do cleansings, Native American, Greek Orthodox, Christian, Catholic, which was me doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
We had Buddha, and what else did we have? I forget what the other. Oh, Hindu. So, we respect all religions, whatever you believe in, and that's how we will try to expel a demon from your home.
So Paul, were you in there with the holy water? The power of Christ compels you. Just like that.
No, not like that. I actually
Kinda. Kind of, Paul he has been known to spread some holy water and come in with a big cross now.
I do
Yes,
use I do have a big cross. I do have holy water, but my way of expelling a demon, you go from the back of the house to the front of the house and expel it from the front of the house. So
Like pushing them out.
yeah, you're pushing them out, right? And
see, Paul
and
knows all that stuff. See,
I do like four winds prayers and all this other stuff. Yeah. But and it was so funny is because I've been very successful with that, and I do a full submersion baptism, which is a basic form of exorcism, and a lot of people don't realize that. And when I first started it, I doubted myself. I said, "God, is this going to really work?" And sure enough, I would get a phone call. Hey, Paul, your baptism worked. I don't have that demonic attachment anymore. So
oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's some good stuff. But anyway, Xandine, I know we're like short on time, but I want also to talk about your UFO hunts. You went to Los Angeles several times doing
So
UFO hunts, and I think you went to Joshua National Tree Park, and that's a place that is many people see UFOs over there. They've even put entities over there. So, can you tell us about some of your UFO hunts in Los Angeles?
sure, sure. Like I concentrate on a triangle of Landers, 29 Palms, and Joshua Tree. A lot of people know about Joshua Tree, but Landers and 29 Palm aren't say it's pretty, but like it's the desert where you would feel like you could have contact. But the importance is George Van Tassel had the Integratron right there in Landers, which is right by Joshua Tree. And it was that they had the vortices. It was built right on all the vortices, the most energetic point there. And supposedly he was told by the aliens to put that there. It was an ionizer, negative ionizer, go ahead and heal you. It had no rivets, anything. So, that building that he built. So between that city, I would go, it's like a triangle. And nighttime is really active. Daytime, I've seen stuff. You have to really concentrate, and you got to have your camera set because some of that stuff is really fast. There's some fast stuff going on you can catch like that. But the days of like stuff just like hovering and being there, I do you do have. So I did feel some stuff like that, but um, you got to catch it different ways because they know about cloaking. They'll say hi different ways, but yeah, Joshua Tree, Hollydale, Los Angeles, Long Beach, all those areas have a big history of actual contact. For example, in Southgate, there was a school in the 50s where there were like balloons, silver balloons, and the kids were looking in the sky. And next thing you know, there were some entities, almost like in Zimbabwe, some little entities talking to them about the earth and preserving it. And this was like right in an area where you see stuff all the time, but you don't know if it's military because of that area or what. But Topanga Canyon, oh my gosh, those places are lit. I think anybody that wants it, can get it.
Have you been to Mount? Have you been to Mount Shasta? I'm sorry.
I just came back. I just came back from Mount Shasta. I got that one video. I just sent you a video. One stop. It looked. One went right. It started up. It's one of those big ones you think is a star. That's been sitting there forever. It took off and it stopped right over the head. I mean, you could see it. It already took itself out of 99% of satellite talk. But I sent that to you too. But yeah,
holy cow!
yeah.
I'm going to put all these up in post so people can actually see them while you're speaking about them. I wanted to ask you about all of the clips that you sent me because they all seem pretty interesting. One of them looked like there were hundreds of UFOs.
Right.
Explain that one.
My favorite. Those when I call them mass contact. It's like it's every now, you get times where I think for me, it's intent. I've seen it happen under different circumstances, but like when they come in bunches like that, it's usually been like I ask some kind of like philosophical question or something. Like I go to this place in Los Angeles, and even with the Bloods and Crips, where they bang around these parts, they see you, they don't even bother. They're just like, hey man, you see anything today? Everything all right? No problem. Because they know about this. They know something's going on here. They don't even mess around.
Now
So
this
it's
was
like,
this was broad daylight because that footage is.
yeah,
I'm looking
broad
at it. I'm
daylight,
trying to figure out if I get that's. Yeah, it's
broad
pretty
daylight.
crazy looking.
Yeah, broad daylight. They happen like several times. It's like, I just like I said, I called it the mass contact. It was too many to get in, and they were doing synchronized stuff. Sometimes it had like these. They could make symbols, or it could just be scat. It's too much to get into the lens because even with 25 mm's, all the way back, I needed like a 10,
Yeah.
maybe even yeah, I needed like a 10,
With
to even
those
think about.
mass UFOs, that was also too seen in Mexico. And
Right.
Jaime Lawson, that's how he became famous because he was out there by Mexico City and he was had his film crew filming all those UFOs. It was a
Yep.
mass sighting. And then that's what you experienced, Zandy, that mass sighting, but you experienced it in the United States.
I sent him a couple. I got like six. I mean, it happened, man. It's happened at nighttime and daytime. Actually, I don't know if it's pretty at nighttime because you think it's like a Christmas tree, man. Like and it goes horizontal instead of being in the sky. You don't confuse it for stars. If you see it happening like in front of your face, like a Christmas tree stands up, you know the difference. But yeah, that's like you get those are addicting, man. Like that's addicting. You see
Wow.
that you just because it floors you, they come out of nowhere. You're like, God, is there anybody else like us, believe in love, we doing the right thing? Like, can we keep pushing it? Is it people just like us everywhere else? Boom, whatever. I'm just saying. Yeah.
But that one was a great shot. You also sent that one of a blue,
Thank you.
looked like
Thank you.
a blue dot.
Oh man, you
Uh,
saw that, man. You are like,
yeah.
wow, you are sharp, man.
I saw it too.
That was one of my favorite. That's like that was it was a night. I mean, I think I got lucky getting that because I was focused. I was sitting there, and I saw it and I followed, but then it stopped, and so I was like, well, how long can I get it? And I was using something pretty powerful because it was deep. It was deep. It was deep space. It wasn't like it wasn't like and I've been trying ever since then. Well, this time of year is like the time to catch stuff like that because when you get the clear skies, or when that kind of those chemtrails burn off, because man, the sky is like, and you got to play the cycles of when the stuff burns off because you can't see anything a lot of times.
There was another one that it almost looked like a set of rosary beads and a crucifix.
Okay, now look, I want to tell you about that. That right there now, remember you saw a whole bunch of things. To me, that thing is just as important because that thing right there, I'm gonna send you some better ones of it. I just didn't even know if you'd be interested, but that came, there's a funny story behind that. I I always say, I said to my wife, I say, hey, listen, I don't like to practice abstinence, but like I notice when I do, and
You
I
see
and I
more.
do certain other things. And I help, yeah, like my reverberations up. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, helping, just trying to have as less blemishes as I can. And I'm not saying that's a blemish, but that just takes my substance anyway. So I thought that it helped. She said, "No, I don't down. That's the problem." So I'm like, so I said, well, you know what? I had the book. I had actually a Bible, and I said, Lord, can I have a sign, a reset sign? That how important this is to me because I'm not trying to, short change or be funny or do anything like that. This is motivating me. I want that person to have the same motivation. Can I have something like right here? Because the wind was there. It was some wind too. And I was like, just something that's right there. Like, and I was saying that. I mean, I actually even said it a thing. We got what we wanted, because I was sitting there and boom, like a couple of minutes later, I mean, this thing is like bigger than like football fields. If you like a 747, you would have to take them and line them. So I don't know who can manufacture this. Like, where would you put it together? Like, it's sitting there and it's just straight like that. Now, this is not the first time. I got some higher up and I didn't realize they were crosses until later. But I was praying. I'm not saying that does it whatever I pray, because I'm sure it's not a standard prayer, it's not nothing, that's anybody's book or anything. So I just say stuff like, hey, I hope people that's going through the cancer stuff that I went through with my mother, I hope they're doing okay with their father or whoever. I know that they're going through it. Lord help them. Or like the kids, is not eating. I know there's a lot of crappy stuff going on. Okay, I want to hit those. Lord, let me get some world peace. Like I'll do like a 30-point prayer of different things. And by the time I'm finished, I'm so into it. But for me to be doing that, it wasn't on a Sunday when that came. That wasn't a Sunday. So some people say, oh, well, somebody randomly throws up a cross. And nah, what it is they have. And
And also too,
huh?
also too, Xandine, it's not the first time that crosses were seen in the sky. In 1561, above Nuremberg, Germany, they actually saw a celestial phenomenon, a bunch of crosses in the sky,
Wow.
and they were actually in a firefight with UFOs that looked like globes and looked like
Wow.
boomerangs. So, and they actually drew on this piece of wood this UFO battle over Nuremberg in 1561.
You're blowing me away, Paul. That is crazy information, man. Send me that. Ooh, man. I'll be on that for like a week. Oh my God,
Not,
that's
not only that,
that's
I
a
was
lot of implications in that. That's a lot of implications in that.
and I was stationed in Nuremberg, Germany, at Merrill Barracks, and the
You
people,
were that close.
oh yeah,
Man.
the people in Nuremberg, they still talk about it. And you're talking about something that had happened in 1561, but it was a battle in the sky. It was just like Star Wars.
Wow. I never. Oh, wow. That is
Yeah, look it up.
fascinating.
You got
Yeah. I'm gonna check. Dang.
Nuremberg UFO battle.
There's one more picture. Well, there's I think you sent me 2 or 3 pictures and a couple of videos too. But there's another one that I was having a hard time figuring out what it was. It almost looked like party balloons.
Right. But when you blew it up, you saw that face, huh?
Yeah. It's
Okay. Now, the importance of that is that area I said where the kids had their little contact, the same thing happened to them there in that same area. So I was sitting there at this grade and just minding my business. Then it's gray skies. So these party balloons. Now, I gotta tell you something. I've seen enough party balloons like millions. Somebody either loves me or there's something going on because I've seen millions of dollars worth of those. Okay, like millions of dollars. And I even submitted some to Mylar clubs, and the guys got funky with me, kicked me out. Like didn't cuss me out, but said some choice words like, "Man, I don't know what that is, but you keep that away from me." Like something tripped them out about it. But the thing of it is those ones that you saw, they were up like 3 miles up. That came all of a sudden it came down. Uh, I guarantee you that face wasn't part of the package.
what kind
That is
camera?
unusual.
What kind of camera did you get that one on?
That was on a Nikon. That was on a Nikon P series.
Well,
Nikon.
Sorry.
and with ufology, you have very strange things where people say, "Hey, I was sitting there watching TV. I look out my window, and there's an L looking at me. And then as I'm watching that L becomes a gray alien with long, elongated black eyes watching them through the living room window. So
Oh
aliens,
man.
they have that way of morphing from one
Yeah.
thing that you're seeing, and then it becomes something else. So those balloons with that alien face, there's something odd with that. Something
This-
very strange.
You know what? It's funny you said it because I've seen them formed by orbs, like on the spot, like they were misformed. Something was like deformed about them. So there's something. And then there was a time I was in Los Angeles at a hotel, and like some balloons on the balcony. It was like one to the right, one to the left, and one in front. Like if you would have reached out, we were like on the 5th floor or something. And there's no way you can reach them without breaking your neck. They were spread out, equidistant. They came together, Paul, and and feel the knot, they tied the strings tied together in a knot by themselves. And then there were one, and then it untied and they spread back. So that was weird.
And there's something going on with balloons, because you had the Chinese balloons that were pulling surveillance. We shot them down. Then all of a sudden, too, you hear that we're shooting down UFOs. So we're shooting down Chinese balloons. We're shooting down UFOs. And there was one time where I'm driving down Elk Grove, and I swear to God, I had a Mylar balloon.
Yeah.
Following my car.
You did. I bet you did.
This damn balloon following my car?
Yeah.
Is this
How long did it take you to notice? How long did it take you to notice it was following you?
I noticed it quick because I was watching the balloon. I said, "Oh, that's so cool! There's a balloon, floating up in the sky." And then I'm driving along, it's following me. I go, "What the hell?" That's crazy.
They tried to
Well, I
explain
think it's that
Roswell
way.
away. Sorry.
What'd you think, Bill?
So they tried to explain Roswell away as just a balloon.
Well,
Yeah,
the thing
there
about
you go.
balloons, I got plenty of pictures with things around. I think it's their nice way of saying hi sometimes, man. Because if they go dash and do us, people freak out, and they, so sometimes if you notice, next time you see a mylar floating like by itself, just take a picture of from afar, and I guarantee you'll find like some little thing that's like,
If
I
you
mean,
wanted to camouflage something, something in the sky, you wanted to make something you just blend in, you're either going to be a cloud or a balloon, right?
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I've only ever captured UFOs on one clip in my entire life. And when I zoomed in on it, I swear it just looked like the smallest cloud you've ever seen. Only it was moving faster than any airplane could possibly move.
That's so frustrating, man. You actually brought up the best point. When I'm thinking about footage, period, is that like there's really not a lot of cameras that can avoid the light burst that you have. Like if you look at it far away, you can kind of see it. The closer you get, the more that blinding light is. And they have some that are, unless they let that shield down of light, you will never know what it looks like or what it is. There's some that are just bright, and as you get on the camera, it gets distorted and it can't handle it. But like I've seen a couple of things on YouTube where it was like I knew it was the type of ball I'd seen, but these guys, whoever it was, had it really close, like where a parking meter would be close. Like imagine if you would put money in a parking meter. It was one like that close on the sidewalk to this building, and it was green, spinning full of energy, but you couldn't see what was in the middle.
Well, most people can't take a picture of the moon. You need a special lens to be able to do that. You try it yourself and you see what happens.
Right.
So it's
And UFOs are known to they may look like a disc. Then as you watch it, it becomes a black helicopter. And in 1896 to 1897, in San Francisco, Oakland, and Sacramento, they saw mysterious airships. And these airships were like no airship in the United States. And they were just hovering, and people were watching this, and they're considered as UFOs.
Wow.
we're getting down to the wire again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And before I just let it run out on us, I'd like to thank you, Xandine, for being here. It's been a great
Thank you.
conversation. Really,
Sorry, I thought I
enjoyed
brought you up. Sorry for talking the whole wave up, man.
it.
But
That's why you're here. I'm loving all your stories, and I really enjoyed talking.
I
with you.
appreciate you so much, Phil. Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it, and I like to hear about your clip next time, man.